What is up, guys? Teamlead again. So today I wanted to see what kind of other tech dudes are on the YouTube, and I found this guy. I think his name is Kale, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And what is really sad for me, for someone who also does programming, is then I go to videos such as why Linux is better for programming, and I kinda see the commentary from someone who kinda feels that he haven't used both. Let's pick a bone with this guy, not with this guy exactly, but what he said. I found the arguments in the comments section, and some guy even did timelines for us. This is super amazing. Sorry, I'm going to hide your face a little bit, or rather I'll hide your logo and your face can stay. Have you ever wondered why Linux is so popular? Yes, I can answer that in single word. Open source. I do hope that's one word, not one with a hyphen that makes two. Yes, it's open source. In layman terms, it's free. Not all of it. There are distros like Red Hat, but more on that later. But yes, most distros, I say distros is distributors or versions of it, so they are free. So what's the popularity here? You had to pay a lot of money for corporate overlords at Microsoft, right? And if some of you are familiar with what a Windows server is, so you kind of know that there was this thing where you had to pay per core. So you had 8 cores, you had to pay for each core, and that was costly. Visual Studio as such, so Visual Studio is an IDE for C# developers, that used to cost money as well. It was a company, it is a company, and it wanted to get a lot of money. So the popularity simply stems from the fact that there is a big community of people who want to make free stuff available to you. This is why. The questions being answered in video, why Linux? There are a lot of things why Linux, but I'll make my own video why, because I don't think most of his points apply. Let's go through the points. Find Kale sick hoodie. Yes, I agree. Actually, your hoodie is quite sick, and if I had extra money, I would definitely buy it. About 7 main reasons why Linux did it. Okay, so the reason number 1, security. Now, this is, I would say, a very controversial topic, because when you're saying security, you have to understand that there is out-of-the-box security and there is a possible security. So there are two different things. So what I mean here is, you have to understand that if something is mainstream, and Windows kinda is mainstream, right? So there's going to be a lot of programs written for it. And some of those programs are going to be malicious. Some of those malicious programs are going to be worms, trojans, and other different types of malware, right? That's just a given. And this argument was made for MacBook as well. So buy a MacBook. Why? Why should I buy the Mac with Teamlead? Well, because it's safe, it's not hackable, and there are less viruses. Yes and no. Yes, there are less viruses than you would find on Windows, because there are less people who do that, right? If you're basing security that it's never been hacked, and you're just saying that this fact makes something secure, then you're right. But I don't think that's true, because both systems can be hacked. There are different ways to do it. Just Linux is built in a different way, and that different way makes it more secure. So remember, at Windows you do a lot of things and you can do it out of the box. Actually, if you take, for example, I have a computer from my company, somewhere here, there's a small laptop. So that laptop is secured in a way that I can't even install specific things. Yes? So you can make Windows very secure, you just have to, lose certain rights. Windows has built-in firewall, there's a built-in firewall Linux as well. So out of the box, it is pretty secure. It has a lot of updates. It even has what's called O-Day or Zero-Day updates, very critical updates for new things to do. So out of the box, Windows is secure. Is Linux out of the box secure? Yes. When most people talk about security, I would say we have to take into account who's going to use it and for what. If you're a simple guy who only goes to YouTube and you don't press any links and you don't install any software from Nairobi and Princess who offer you millions of dollars, both operating systems is totally fine for you and you have nothing to fear. If you, on the other hand, do whatever, yes, Linux is a bit more secure in a way, but it kinda doesn't allow to do those things out of the box. But if you really want to add things from untrusted sources, you can do that on Linux as well. If we're talking simple security, both are fine. If we're talking, let's call it a stupid user scenario, Linux is a little bit more secure in a way that it allows less things to happen without inputting specific commands or giving specific rights. Simple user who just installed Ubuntu doesn't even know what chmod is, right? So he doesn't know how to add different levels on files and file structure. Now, in that case, it's more secure. But he can Google it. Like a guy like you could Google it and make a lot of mistakes and make his system insecure, right? And if we're talking about enterprise security, that's a whole nother beast on another level. You're probably going not to use free system like, for example, Ubuntu or OpenSUSE or Mandrake or Mint or whatever. You're going to buy Fedora. That's going to be expensive, but I'm sorry, not Fedora. My mistake, Red Hat. So you're going to buy a Red Hat, that's going to be expensive, and there's a lot of support for it, there's a professional updates for it, and there's definitely all-day packs to fight even the slightest malicious thing. Again, choose your side and really understand what you're talking about instead of just generalizing a lot of things. Now, second, Linux improves your programming workflow and its package no, it doesn't improve your programming workflow in any other way the other system would do it. What you just said here is definitely your personal opinion, and there are different package managers you can use. For example, in C# I have this Nugget package manager. It even has visual interface. I can use command-like interface. For me, that's fast, that's amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world. But that's very personal to me. So I would say you can make anything amazing and easy to use personally for you, right? So if you go, for example, best package manager for Windows for programming, and I made a typo. And here is one. One-get, win-get, scoop, up-get, npack, 9 chocolate, and all that jazz. There are package managers to choose from, and again, it's personal preference, and different people can find different ways to do it faster. No points here. Third, there's no rebooting. Yes and no. You have to understand that then you're making comparison Windows and Linux, you have to do apples to apples comparison, right? You can't do banana to apple or finger to that thing below your belt comparison. It's not the same thing. Why? Yes, if you have, and let me show you right here, I can illustrate this, right? So I have this system, it's running Ubuntu. Yeah, it's very small. It's very small. Ubuntu distribution, it doesn't even have graphical interface. Yes, it is amazing. It doesn't have any clutter, and yes, I usually don't need to restart it. But do I need to reboot it at all? Yes, especially if I'm doing super security updates, because you do need those. You're probably going to need to restart it. If you have a lot of things after installation or configuration, there can be a lot of zombie things there, so you might need to reboot it. So it's not like you're never rebooting it, it's just, there are different rules. So before Windows 10, on Windows 10, yes, I can agree. For current Windows 10, even when I press sleep, my computer, if it finds updates, critical updates, it restarts. And for me as a developer, that's annoying. I agree with you on this point. But what I disagree is that there's no reboot. On Windows 7, I never reboot. I had my development machine sleeping 2 years in a row. I think I only restarted it once, and it wasn't the Windows fault, the energy went out of the building. So, it's not like you don't need it at all, it's just you're probably doing it less, but keep in mind what kind of distribution you are comparing. If you're comparing very small non-desktop distribution of Ubuntu versus full-fledged Windows with many services, games, and etc., it's not the same comparison. There might be things who can destroy it. For example, in my computer right now, if I record at this resolution and I have like this big of a screen, VLC player just crashes everything. I'm not sure how, I don't really care, but it sometimes happens, right? At first I thought maybe my GPU is cooked, but I can play very demanding games, no problem. Can same thing happen on Ubuntu? No, it doesn't have, graphical interface, so to speak, so no crash or restart is going to happen there. But if I make specific circumstances where it can, there's a high chance that it's going to go the same way. Do apples to apples. Fourth, powerful programming tools come pre-installed. Example, we get... come on. Powerful programming tools. I think you can install whatever programming tools floats your boat, because different programmers use different ideas, right? There are some people who even use non-graphical interfaces and then they push that to compiler to compile, and that's it. I even know such people who write emails on, bash only console-like fashion, and they don't even, use Outlook. For me, I love Outlook. It's crazy when I can see something. But there are people who do it that way. This point, again, I'm not giving you any points here, because for different people, there are different powerful, why do you mean powerful? What does it mean even powerful? For different people, different things can be powerful or powerless. So keep in mind that if something comes pre-installed, at least in my book, I call it bloatware. So if you're making a point that some things come pre-installed in Windows and it's bad, it's bloatware, in my book, what you're seeing here, it's a bloatware. I want to have something really fresh and install everything myself. That's a non-bloatware distro, and there are specific distros who are absolutely like fresh. They have nothing extra, only the specific things to run your stuff. Some even don't come with desktop graphical interface. You have to install Xdesktop yourself. So here's that. Fifth, Linux lends itself well to task automation. Do you know what PowerShell is? Or have you, as a developer, even tried to automate things in Windows environment? I'm not saying that to write simple services who start and to write simple scripts that do something on Linux is easy, but we have PowerShell script. You can write bat files on Windows where you have, for example, you open your desktop and have this run my specific stuff.bat. You press it and it runs a script and starts your Chrome, it starts your VLC player, or it starts your, I don't know, some kind of music Shazam, Machizo, Gingy thingy, right? It is possible. Again, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to give you a point here, because automation can be done in both, and I don't really see why you can't do it on Windows. Just because you know, there are ways to do it there as well. Check out Discord community here, maybe later. Sixth, performance. Another topic which I would say you have to start comparing apples to apples. And I know I'm being broken record here, but bro, do you even know what an architecture of 32 bits versus 64 bits even are? Because in your video you're showing, oh, I can install a small Linux on old machine, and here give me 5 up top, down low, middle 5, back 5, through my a-hole 5. I'm a golden programmer / genius / administrator. You're not. Because why are you not taking Windows XP? You know, if we're dealing with 32 bits, why not Windows XP? Just take that. I can, you know, we can make a bet that computer you showed there, I can install Windows XP on that machine. And I can even go one level down. Why not, you know, switch off specific services on Windows XP and have even smaller distribute of Windows XP and make it runnable on pretty much anything, right? That can happen. I remember, you know, some good 15 years ago, we used to modify Windows XP all the time, and one of the best cuts we made, I kid you not, it was like 65 or 85 megabytes. That's how much the running Windows 8. Can you imagine it? So the normal I would say was around 300, 400, something like that. It really depended on different services and different things you added to it, but that was it. So we made this so-called game-only Windows distro where we switched off pretty much anything that's not required for gaming, and it was less than 100 megabytes. Your move, Kale. Seventh, Linux actually provides you with useful error messages. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to give you a point here. Yes, if you were making an argument when computer crashes and you see this, you know, smiley face, and that's pretty much it. Yes, you got me here. I can give you a point here. But if you're making an assumption that you do something through console and you have good errors there, so have you tried like running what's called a common prompt? Do you know that you can do specific things here? Like, here you go. There's all of my things existing in my computer. It's a tree of my things. There's a lot of things, and it's going, and it can go way longer than we need to. So I'm going to stop because there are quite a few things in my computer. But if you do, for example, if you say ipconfig and say cool, it couldn't understand what I was saying, and it gives me an ability to do something. For example, ipconfig all, so I can do again ipconfig /all/cool. Again, it couldn't eat what I was saying, so, and it says error, unrecognized or incomplete command line. That's pretty understandable error to me. So if you're saying non-graphical interface gives good errors, I totally agree. Windows does as well. If you're comparing graphical to non-graphical, yes, graphical interface, I would say most of the time is pretty much dumb on Windows side because it's tailored for simple users, and simple users are not going to Google specific codes. Right you are on this case. And eighth, customization. Your points you made at this video was that you can pretty much customize all things in Linux. Wrong. Let me correct you on this specific case. There are specific Linux distributions in which by installing or otherwise you can control a lot of things. There are some, but there are not all of them, meaning that you do get a specific set of rules already predefined, and then you're choosing, do you want to have KDE or GNOME type of desktop? So there's a different layout for that, and after that you can customize specific things like icons, text, or apply skins or something like that. But you can do the exact same things in Windows. You can turn off specific services, you can add skins, you can change text, you can make it bigger, you can set by default that Windows looks 125% magnified. So remember, I had this very small work computer with very bad resolution. What I did, I magnified it always, so it was stretched, but for me that was easier to read because I couldn't understand at that time that I needed glasses, right? I customized it. I could give you 0.05 for this case, because if you want to customize Linux internally, you'd either have to be Linus Torvalds, or you have to take specific distro like Gen 2, and you would have to use at least 24 hours of your life installing it. But yes, by installing you could set a lot of things by yourself. Is it possible? Yes. Has it more power than Windows? In this specific case, yes. Do you have to be at least a Linux system administrator to install that correctly? Yes. If I'm being honest, I could give you half the point here for customization on the whole, let's say, architecture part, but I'm definitely not going to give you the other half, because from what you're speaking in at least in this video, I would say, let's say there are simple user, there are you, and there are like professional Linux guys. So for you, the customization is the same in Linux and Windows. I'm nearing the other side, so I can customize a lot both systems, and that's not an issue for me as such. That's why I'm giving only half the point, because yes, you are right on the architectural side, but you're wrong. Both can be customized quite a bit, and you can even download different themes, man. It's not rocket science, and just apply it. So, conclusion. Coming to conclusion, because I'm feeling like I've made a longer video than the first video was. We're trying to say why Linux is better for programming. If you ran through all my points, I think by this time you should see that Linux in no way is better for programming than Windows. I'm sorry, there is just absolutely zero evidence for that, right? If you made points concerning specific to things like optimization, if specific languages were very optimized on Linux, and let's say specific graphical things for Unity or other different engines were specifically made better, and you would be losing like 50% of more performance on Windows, that could be a good point. Yeah? If there was specific language you could use only on Linux and you couldn't use on Windows, and I'm looking at you, Mac OS here, because I had to debug MacBook things, and I had to have Mac Mini to do it faster, because it was a real pain to use a virtualized Mac OS, Hackintosh. So yeah, for that, if you were making this case for Mac OS, I would agree, because Mac OS programming is annoying AF. So for that, I would concede. But for this case, I would say all the things you said are either very subjective. It means you had this feeling and you kind of feel that's for all of people, or they're not points which do not apply to the other system. So I've used both for a lot, for quite some time, I know how to dual boot, I know how to virtualize them, I know how to have only system at my machine and things like that. And yeah, I definitely am going to make 2 more videos. This video probably means debunking your, let's say, so-called topics, and I'll make 2 more videos where I'll be explaining what is the difference for simple user and what is the difference for enterprise, because trust me, there are specific points you haven't even touched, like licenses, support, and what is the difference between open source programs and paid ones. And trust me guys, if you were a user of Ubuntu, let's say 15 years ago, where you had to use Open Office instead of, you know, normal Windows Office, you probably feel the same pain I felt when I had to edit documents on the open source one. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, drop a like. If it was educational, drop that sub, and I'll be seeing you guys on the next one. Goodbye. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel and press like.